All right. Hey, hey, hey. Good morning, Green Team. So nice to be with you today. I'm excited because we're going to be talking with Lee Recca of Denver Permaculture Guild and talking about what the heck is permaculture. I'm also going to tell you about a few things we have coming up. But first, I just want to say hi, Lee.
Hi.
Good morning. All right, so we're going to dive in a second. Just want to let you know a few things coming up. The Earth Week Summit is April 17th to the 24th. And next week's podcast, we're going to dive in and I'm going to give you a tour of all the cool things that we have going on. It's going to be a little bit different this year. So I think that you'll love it. We've got all kinds of neat stuff in there between. We have a pop-up group all month long in April. If you have events in April that you want us to cross-promote, we can become promoting partners with you. We're doing fundraising to plant 1,000 trees with our buddies in Kenya, the Mabinju Powerhouse Youth Group. So that's a fun thing too. We're going to be talking about getting updates right now from the 2020 challengers in the International Climate Action Challenge. So we're going to be giving you an update of what all they've done, and then also look at what's coming for the 2021 International Climate Action Challenge. So all kinds of cool stuff happening with that, as well as the challenge itself, just to kind of keep that on your radar, that launches August 18th. All right, so with that, let's get Lee in here. And yeah, Lee, do you want to just start by kind of introducing yourself and telling us, like, so I know you're the president of the Denver Permaculture Guild, but what's your story? How did you get to this point? I'm sure it's a long story, so you can,
Try to make it short.
yeah.
I was moving into a new home in 2012, and I had been living up in the foothills and was very interested in native plants up there. So then I moved down onto the flatlands, as we call it, of Denver, and was interested in. I have a property with quite a bit of land around it. So I heard about the Permaculture Design Course from some of my new neighbors who had taken the first course. And so I enrolled in the second course that was offered here in Denver. And that was in 2012 in the fall. And it's a 6-month course that lasted until spring of 2013. And I got to say, it really changed my life. It really changed my outlook, not only towards my land, but also towards how I approach any other problems in my life or opportunities. And it really changed my thinking. And, I'm a completely different person than I was back in the aught years. So that's basically my story.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing because that's a pretty short amount of time to kind of go from what is permaculture to now living it in so many different ways. So yeah, you're acting as president or serving as president for the Denver Permaculture Guild, and I know that you help people that are changing up their land as well. So that's really a cool transformation. So yeah, so let's start with that question of what is permaculture. I have heard about it on and off for years. I remember doing a tour. We did it's like a sustainable house tour in Boulder a few decades ago, and came across one house that had edible landscape, and they were talking about permaculture, and I was like, this is amazing. I don't really understand what it is, but it was so different than all the other homes. I could tell there was something
Uh-huh.
real going on. So what would you say as far as, just the basics? What is permaculture?
Well, permaculture has evolved over time, and it started out way down in Tasmania, actually, in the 60s and 70s. As a movement, and there was a University of Tasmania professor, Bill Mollison, who worked with one of his graduate students, David Holmgren, and they studied indigenous peoples of that area and up into Southeast Asia and so on, to learn how they had practiced agriculture over the centuries and how they were practicing in such a way as to not deplete the land and pollute the elements and so on. So they came up with a guiding system of 12 principles. And thank you, Joan, for showing this. So these are the 12 principles that guide us and that we study. And then later on, we develop the 3 ethics, which you see in the center there, of earth care, people care, and fair share. The principles are very interesting because you can apply them not just to a garden or something like that, but to a culture or a civilization or a situation in your life. For instance, if you take the second principle, which is catch and store energy. So this kind of applies to plants, especially right now in the spring. We're heading into spring, right? So we can think hopefully that the leaves and buds catch energy in the cells of the leaves, and they put it to work in creating food for the plant to grow. And however, if you want to apply it to a social situation, we catch and store energy when we talk to our neighbors, and we gather information, and we bounce ideas off each other, and we create a movement, just like permaculture is a movement. But it could be Earth Week or the climate challenge, like you have created. You are practicing permaculture, Joan, by catching and storing energy.
That's pretty neat. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So cool. And I love too that you were talking about how the name of permaculture, that that concept named in that way, was started in Tasmania, but really it's the millennia of traditional ecological knowledge that have, as you said, has been the system that is, how do you work in concert with nature, as part of nature, without degrading it, that's the real magic. And I know when I took the financial permaculture course, that Denver Permaculture Guild hosted with Michael Alcazar, and he said that that he felt like permaculture was probably about one of the closest ways to convey some of that indigenous holistic perspective. That is not perfect but it's pretty dang close. So if for people that understand, wow, these guys had something figured out that our dominant culture doesn't, that permaculture could be a bridge to start understanding all of that. Yeah,
that's right, Joan. We have, especially here in the US and in Europe and most places, we have been practicing extractive agriculture for, a couple of centuries. And so when you extract resources and take them away without regeneration, you're just buying from or stealing from the future, actually. And so this has come to fruition, where we have depleted soils in the Midwest, erosion. We have water problems, drought problems, and of course we have climate change. And a lot of that is due to our extractive agriculture practices and we have to change those. So we're looking to cultures that lived in harmony with nature. And one of the main points is that indigenous cultures have followed natural processes. For instance, they will do things that are appropriate for the season, and they will find natural ways to catch and store energy in the form of light, and also in the form of water. So a lot of the studying that we do are things like enriching the soil, amending the soil, and not extracting from it without giving back again. Also, building structures that will help us to sink and slow the flow of water, so that we don't have, pavements and roofs that just rush the water away from where it's needed. And also ways to keep the air clean, all of the different elements that plants need to thrive, and that people need to thrive.
That's cool. And so the Permaculture Design Course kind of walks through all those different elements. And so, Lee, what would be an idea? Let's say if you're working with somebody who has maybe a small yard in Denver or somewhere that's just grass. It's mostly, just grass. You got a couple trees, a couple bushes along the side. What would be kind of a starting point? When I was thinking it might be helpful for people to visualize what does a permaculture landscape. And I think one of the main things about permaculture is every site is different. And so that's the kind of cool thing about it. But maybe in general, or imagining somewhere that you've worked or your own home, what would that transformation actually look like?
Well, we start with principle number 1, observe and interact. And so, I was at the Landscaping with Native Plants conference this past weekend, and they said, if you want to put in a garden this year, don't go out and buy a bunch of plants first thing. First thing, go out in your landscape and observe, where does the sun fall? Where does the melting snow pool up? And, where does it melt first? What is the flow of energy, wind, people, noise, birds, all kinds of things. Where are the views, and so on? And interact with the landscape. And then another good starting point is to think about yourself. Most gardeners start with growing tomatoes, but whether they like tomatoes or not, and so you have to really ask yourself and ask your family, or other people who are going to be using this landscape, what do you want to use it for? The third or fourth principle is obtain a yield. And a yield may not be something that you put into a bushel basket and sell at the farmer's market. It may be, experiences that you have with your family, or it may be painting the landscape or writing poetry about the landscape. So you have to decide first what kind of yield do you want? What do you want to use that land for? And that will help you start right.
Oh, and we have a little kitty cat visitor. I love that. I went through the Monet exhibit. I don't know if you got to.
Yes, I did.
But I didn't realize that those gardens that he was painting the whole last part of his life, that he had grown them basically to paint. Mm-hmm. And so that's a great example of, if that's what you want to do. And his whole thing was painting the different light that fell on the, trying to capture that light on the canvas. And so that was his deal. But I also know that he stopped at noon every day and had his neighbors over, and they had a lunch from things in the garden as well. But I would say he is a pretty good permaculturist in some respects then.
I would agree, definitely.
All right. So how about the Permaculture Design Course that Denver Permaculture Guild is offering? So this is something that you do annually, and now with COVID and everything, how did that go last year? How are you doing it this year?
Well, we did have a PDC for short last year, and we have a nice selection of offerings this year. I'm very pleased because there's a lot of demand, and there's pent-up demand because some people wanted to hold off last year with, all of the restrictions. So we are going to be offering a rather intensive permaculture design course starting in late July. That'll be hands-on and will be outdoors, and it will be 6 weekends over 3 months. And I'm very excited about that and getting back into the courses that we've known in the past. And we also I am pleased to say that we are going to partner with the Pikes Peak Permaculture Guild. They have about 20 students that have been waiting patiently for about a year to take the course. And we have about 12 people here who want to start out, even though we'll have to do the first 2 months on Zoom, and we won't be able to meet in person until probably around the end of May. So we have, that will be a traditional 6-month course. And then the Boulder Permaculture people are offering a residential program up at Sunrise Ranch for 2 weeks in July. So we have quite a selection of things that can help you.
Wow. I want to do all of those. Okay, so the traditional 6-month one starts in April, mm-hmm. and the first couple months will be remote.
Right.
And then you'll move into in person as things kind of open up. And so that goes April through October.
Right.
I think. Okay. And then you have the
3-month course starting late July.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then the Boulder Permaculture Guild has the residential. And did you say that's 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Yeah, I want to do all those. Well, I think I'm going to do that first one with you.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's exciting. And also we've been talking about how cool this is because we're partnering with Denver Permaculture Guild and the Climate Action Challenge. We'll probably on the Earth Week Summit too. But we're thinking about people that are going through the permaculture design course, that how cool it will be that they can then hop into the Climate Action Challenge and make you know, I know that Benu and other people have been thinking about, how would you do like a nonprofit farm or a healing center or something. And so to be able to get the grounding in the course, like literal grounding, like in the ground, and then take those ideas and make it happen, that kind of passion to action in 90 days. So excited for this partnership. Yeah.
Too.
And so then what are some of the other courses? So interested to hear. I mean, when you said as far as like changing your life, I do feel like the going through that financial permaculture course that Michael taught, it was such a relief because I've been an admirer of Indigenous wisdom and seen it as such for such a long time, but not known how to, it's hard to figure out how to interact. And there's all this stuff of cultural appropriation, and there's a lot of things to navigate. So it's really nice to know that permaculture is kind of a pathway through that in a respectful way. And I was surprised too that it wasn't just about garden design; it's about a whole way of being. So some of the other courses that you have are touching on that. So what else is Denver Permaculture Guild offering?
Well, we are very fortunate that we have one of the pioneers in social permaculture here in Denver, Adam Brock, and he wrote the book of social. I mean, there are other social permaculture books, but his is called Change Here Now, and it has just been out for a year or two, and so it's very up to date, and it talks about the patterns of social permaculture and how to use the principles and apply them to our social activities. And this course is very popular here in Denver. The land-based permaculture, thank you, is not for everybody because a lot of people don't have land that they can work on, and so a lot of this is beyond their abilities right now, but everybody can practice social permaculture. And so he has said that he wants to start a new course as soon as we can meet safely in person, because social permaculture is difficult to teach over Zoom. And
sorry to interrupt, but was I think Adam was he talking about like home sharing was one of the ways? I'm not sure if it was him or somebody else, but to understand what is like an example of what what would social permaculture be practically?
Well, I think that the easiest way to explain it is that you have different zones in your life. You have zone 0, which is your own person. And then you have zone 1, your household and so on. And you're then moving up to your neighborhood, and then your community and your tribe and the world. And so social permaculture works within these different spheres to impact social change and improvement, and to apply the principles.
Neat. And so what would be like, how would that look practically? Let's say if you're using social permaculture in your community.
Well, one of the ways we use it frequently is we form pods of people. I think the ideal size is about 8 or 9 people, and they are self-determining, and they decide on projects that they want to work on, and to mobilize people. So disaster relief is one of the ways that it's supplied, and also creating a different sustainable food systems, food delivery systems, to do community development, job training, and things like that.
It sounds like pretty much all of our challengers who went through the challenge in 2020 each, oh, let me see if I can start a climate action team at my school, or
yes,
or plant some number of trees, or get team going. So okay, cool. All right, that's neat.
And I'd also like to mention about our seasonal gathering. The next one is coming up March 20th, and we've started these. They happen 4 times a year, and at first it's a full day on Saturday, March 20th, and that is the spring equinox. And so we have 3 presentations. One is on people care and self-care. The other one by David Braden is going to be about earth care. And then the last one by Elizabeth France is going to discuss collaboration through deep listening. And so you can sign up for these on our website, on Eventbrite, and on our Facebook page. We have an event. And also, if people would like to sign up for our newsletter, on the homepage down at the bottom of our website, our newsletter gives the full range of activities that we have planned.
So that would be a great introduction to what, how to think about permaculture in a maybe more holistic way, or just 3 different perspectives anyhow. Cool. That's a great idea. Okay. And so then some of the other courses, you have a bunch of other courses coming up as well. I want to make sure that we touch on them.
I think that covers the main ones right now. We do have, another financial permaculture course, and the Decolonizing course. Michael Alcazar will be teaching that one too, and Indigenous Phenology. We have several different things that we're talking about, but we don't have dates on those yet.
Okay, and what does that mean exactly, the Indigenous Phenology? I don't know if I know what phenology actually means.
Well, phenology is uses of plants. So it talks about indigenous use of plants.
Wow, that's exciting. Yeah, that's really cool. And so then the last question I had was, if people are, maybe they're getting ready, primed to start to maybe sign up for a permaculture design course, or they just want to do a bit more research. I know there's tons and tons of books out there, which is probably a good thing because everybody has their own perspective. But are there a few? We put some in the notes, but could you want to give people some ideas about some of the books that are out there, something they might want to start with?
Well, I have to give kudos to the Jefferson County Library because they have a wonderful collection of books. And so you can check out various different permaculture books and then decide which one is right for you. Because as you were saying, there is no one book that covers everything, and they all approach things from different perspectives. Here's one that I personally like a lot, Gaia's Garden by Toby Hemingway. And it talks about permaculture without using the word permaculture a lot.
Okay, so I see what you're saying. So some of the books are kind of more practical about what you do, how to think about it, and others are more trying to explain the principles and
more theoretical. Yes,
more theoretical. Yeah, that would be a better way to say it. Right. Exactly. Okay. And so Lee, what, in kind of as we wrap up here, What advice would you give to somebody that is, just wanting to get started? They're really not sure. They're feeling a little overwhelmed about doing this by themselves, or and this could be somebody in Denver, but it could be someone anywhere in the world. How do they go from nothing to taking that first step?
Okay, well, there are permaculture organizations throughout the world, and there are little community organizations like ours, and there are regional ones, and continent-wide organizations, and they all have lots of resources. Permaculturalists like to talk about each other and things, and different cases, and lastly, I would advise you, if you're starting out, to get in touch with your neighbors, and also to take a walk around your neighborhood and see what your neighbors are doing. And you may find that there may be expert permaculturalists right in your neighborhood, but they don't really know it, but they're practicing it.
Okay.
It's not something that is a brand or has a trademark. It's something that anybody can do.
And so a permaculture, so when you're looking around, you're walking around your neighborhood and you see something that looks like permaculture to you, what do you see? Like in your neighborhood, how does that actually look?
Well, I see some of my neighbors have raised beds right in their front yards where they grow vegetables, and I can peek around the corner and maybe see a compost bin, and maybe some, even in my neighborhood there you can have 6 chickens. You can even have 2 goats, or rabbits, things like that, all kinds of things. Even different ways of harvesting sticks from your trees and making trellises and things like that. It's just really exciting. Rain barrels are starting to appear as well.
So those principles of like create no waste and catch them, whatever. But so you're seeing more life, probably more pollinators. So a lot instead of a lawn which is not exactly dead, but it doesn't have a lot going on.
Right.
So you're seeing, that's what I see as more life, like different sizes and things happening at different times of the year, that trees and bushes and some purple flowering something that the bees and the butterflies seem like they really love. So so just that kind of attention to your really micro bioregion, so your neighborhood. Oh, that's a great idea. And then you can talk with them. I mean, that's something when I used to work with People and Pollinators Action Network, that's one of the things we talked about is you can tell people, stop using pesticides and plant for pollinators. But if somebody just does it, then it is a natural attractant. They probably would love to tell you how they're doing it.
It's great to just when you come upon a neighbor who's working in the yard, just ask them a question or two and just get to know them, and you'll be practicing social permaculture. So you'll be doing 2 things at once, which we in permaculture, we call that stacking functions.
Right, when you're doing multiple things. I was listening to a podcast of a guy in Sacramento. It was a Native American guy who had come out of prison. He'd been in prison for like 18 years. Didn't know what to do. His grandfather, I think, said, well, how about you could start with this garden? And so now he has all these different community gardens in town. But one of the things he does is if he sees a kid riding his bike, he'll yell out to him, hey, what are you doing? Come over and talk to me. Let's see what we got going on here. But I love that. so those the different, the multiple layers of permaculture, of social, giving people some hope and connecting them to nature and all the beauty and abundance that's right there if we choose to.
Absolutely, Joan.
Yeah, terrific. All right, well, thank you so much, Lee, for hanging out with us today. So again, that's Lee Recca from the Denver Permaculture Guild. We've got the contact info, the website there, but I think the email address is, I'm just going to put that in the chat.
Denver Permaculture Guild at gmail.com.
Okay, so if you go to the Denver Permaculture Guild website and you don't see what you need, then you can reach out by email as well. All right, well, thanks everybody for joining us. And next week, we're going to be talking about the Earth Week Summit, which is so fun. We had so many really cool things that we're going to be doing with that. So can't wait to tell you all about it. And there's Susan Kircher there saying, thank you, ladies. Thank you. Yeah, she's one of the people. She started a neighborhood group or a city group in Fountain, Colorado. So she's got a pod going, and they're doing everything from showing up for a food drive to a cleanup to trees. So yeah, it is really neat when people get together and make a difference, and definitely feeling better. And John says, thanks, I'll be joining and keeping in touch. Oh, how cool. That's great. All right. Thanks again, Lee, for everything that you're doing and the Denver Permaculture Guild. And I can't wait to take the PDC this year. So thanks a lot.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for inviting me.
All right. Bye.